It's Brian Preston, the money guy.
All right, Brian, this next question, this is from Jake. How do the guys feel about buying a home with the hawkish comments from the Fed on raising rates? I'm hoping it calms things down. I don't want you to speak so much to this exact question, Brian, but I am curious because a lot of people are thinking, how much should we allow outside forces to influence huge decisions that we're making? Meaning, okay, if we think that interest rates are going to rise, does that mean we should go out and immediately buy a house right now? Or, if we think that, the market's down a little bit, I don't need my emergency fund, I'm just going to throw money at the market because there's an opportunity. How do you, as a financial mutant, weigh the opportunities that outside forces present versus actually making prudent and wise decisions over the long term?
This is exactly why I love what we do for a living, is because you've got to paint with the broad whys first to get the components, the basic components of your financial plan checked in, and locked in, have a good foundation. And what I'm talking about, it depends on which stage of life you're in. But, if you're young, it's really the career choices. It's the degrees in college and that type of stuff, and avoiding the debt issues. When you're getting that messy middle, kind of like what Jake is probably talking about here, you get into your 30s, it's now making sure that you don't screw up the lifestyle type decisions like the cars, the houses, to where you're letting that stuff shape your decision. We just did the Warren Buffett, and it was like, even in investing, being shaped by, reading the tea leaves of what's going on in the world. That stuff's important, don't get me wrong. But if you get the why, the basics of, and this is I even talked to some of our secondary advisors and some of the primaries as they're making these life decisions on houses and stuff. I said, you're going to be here for the next 10 years, aren't you? I mean, you're going to be in this area for the next 10 years. You've got this much income. Your trajectory is going up. Don't let the crazy what's going on with this housing market blow you from making decisions. Take it and make sure the cash flow works. Because like I said, anytime you're dealing with anything with debt and more, that's mortgages, business investments, real estate investments, you better be able to pay that note and that payment, no matter what's going on out there. And that's why cash reserves and keeping all that stuff in check. But once you got, and that's why we do the financial order of operations, because it naturally builds that stuff into the plan. But it is once you have that basic, you can start coloring it into, I'm going to be in this area. Yeah, I might be overpaying for this house, but 10 years from now, will that matter? It's the same. I could flip the coin and say, if you're in a high paying income situation, but 4 years from now you're moving, I don't care what you make. Don't go lock yourself in on something that might turn out to be, I was about to use, just say grenade. I was going to say a bag of poop, but but it could turn out bad for you. So you got to understand the why and build the basic components, and then you can let the tea leaves of being it's really, don't time the market. Build the plan, and then you can let the some of these micro things that are part of your big macro plan be colored a little bit by it. It's just like when we talk about dollar cost averaging into volatile markets, that's a micro action you're taking on a macro plan that you've hopefully already created that was good before the volatility hit, during, and then after. You can do this same mindset, this financial mutant mindset on every component of your life. Is you got to first understand the why on the housing before you start letting Fed rates and mortgage rates and all that stuff influence it. I don't know if I talk too abstract because this is such a personal decision, but I did want to put the mindset into the answer.
I want to make sure I heard you right, because this is like a housing thing, and this is for Team Crash. This is for everybody, right? I think that what you just said was it's better to overpay for a house that you can afford, right? Like, so right now, if it makes sense for you to buy a house and you've done all the things and you follow, it's better to overpay for a house you can afford right now than to overbuy a house you cannot afford.
Right.
Like, I don't have enough money and my income's not quite there, but man, I just want to get in before rates rise and all this stuff. You want to make sure that you don't get too far out on the risk spectrum, But it's okay if you're not getting the timing exactly perfectly right. Am I describing that correctly?
Yeah, and truthfully, I'm a perfect case study. I didn't know that you could make money in real estate until I moved to the state of
Certainly not
Tennessee.
coming from
Because in
Atlanta.
Georgia, I bought a house in 2003 that I lived in and sold it in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So do the math on that. It's owning it 16 years. And I lost $40,000. How do you do
That's
that?
not how you're supposed to
How
do
you
real
do
estate
that?
investing.
I mean, I'll tell you how you do it. South Atlanta real estate, because we got crushed, and I've done shows on this before. But do I regret buying that house in 2003? Not a bit, because
not at
I got a lot of life out of it. I knew I was going to be in the area for that extended period of time. I mean, yes, 2003, I wouldn't have bought the house, but I was not hurt because it fit the messy middle that I was with having kids and everything else. And I had the order of operations right, that financially I was able to absorb it, move on. But it really ties into, you better get the big stuff right, so the micro stuff doesn't sidetrack you into making a mistake.
Here's another just little tidbit, specifically around Jake's question. It was like, hey, how did you feel about these comments coming from the Fed? The government, Fed, fill in the blank, they don't always do exactly what they say they're going to do. So like they might say, oh, rates are going up, but then something might happen and rates might not go up. Or, oh, rates are going down, and then something might happen and inflation happens. So also, think one in the hand is worth two in the bush when it comes to predicting exactly what the future is going to look like. I would make decisions based on what you have going on today and less on what you think that policy might be tomorrow, tax or otherwise.
I do have one closing comment, because a lot of people are going to troll probably. They're going to say, he owned a house for 16 years and lost $40,000. Recognize, here's
I don't
the
think
cool thing.
anybody's going to troll you for
No,
that.
but here's the thing I think is interesting. I still walked away from closing with a multiple six-figure check.
Sure, yeah.
Do you know why? Because I had paid down that
down all that
mortgage
equity,
to practically nothing. And so here's the thing is that, and if you divide $40,000 by 16 years of use, it now becomes much more digestible. So I'm telling you, that's why if you can expand, like if you're making a housing decision 10 years in the future, that's more important than where we are on the pricing, especially for use assets. Now, investments, if you're thinking about doing your first rental property, you do primarily make your money on investment property on the purchase price.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The cash flow helps on your rent, but a lot of the money's made on, are you
When you buy.
overpaying
Yep.
or are you getting it at a super discount? So, I mean, you definitely want to be more cautious on that investment side, but if it's a use asset and it's going to provide shelter for your family, I give you a little more grace.
Love it.